Evening all, and welcome to mission 3 of Kerbal Space Programme. Now, this one is, well, this is a mission. As you saw from the very highly detailed technical drawing at the start of the map of the video, that's what we're going to build today. Now, this actually took me probably about 3 hours to build, and I've edited it down into about 10 minutes. So I've sped up quite a bit of stuff as well. But here we go. So the purpose of really what I was trying to do here was create a station that we can actually transfer to MUN orbit, or moon orbit. So what I was going to do is build this in basically, well, I guess 6 parts. So we have 2 central cores, of which this is one. And I would send 2 of these up, then I'd send 2 tankers up filled with fuel, and then I'd send 2 landers up that would basically dock with this station, and then it would gently edge towards the moon and, you know, kind of try and get there. Now, I didn't know this would work, probably not, but at the end of the day, that's kind of what it's all about, isn't it? Let's see how we do. Now, again, I think the rocket design is getting better for me. I seem to be having less explosions on the pad nowadays, and it's usually because of structural ties. If you can see each of the engines, they're tied together. That seems to help. I've also used braces, those structural braces. I think if you're having issues with it, use them as much as you can. They're pretty lightweight, so you can really spam them quite nicely. Also have an appreciation of stages. I think a lot of people just stick, you know, 5 or 6 fuel cans together and then expect it to to get into orbit, which, you know, there is a real calculation between weight, etc. So module 1 is in orbit. Now, all I did here was then change the fit on this one slightly. I removed some more of the stuff and put batteries on this one, so the 2 are slightly different, but again, pretty much the same in design, both with those docking ports as well. So and again, you know, I think a lot of people maybe forget the only difficult bit really is getting off the Kerbal, only because that's where you need the most power, the most fuel, the most thrust, etc. So also, I think a lot of people maybe stage their engines slightly incorrectly. I know I did. When you basically kick off, try and have as much engine power as you know, getting you off the ground as possible, but then don't neglect this final stage here, which is getting into a proper orbit. Now, in terms of getting these things docked, I have edited quite a lot of that out, but here I'm using the autopilot because I'm not particularly good at getting them aligned at all, to be honest. So, yeah, please try and use MechJeb where possible. But here we go. So finally, you managed to kind of get close. Now, MechJeb will only put you close. You generally have to use your own eye and your own skill to dock and get close. Okay, now that's not true in every case, but I think when you start to get rather complex ships, you start to have that issue where, you know, you can't really trust the autopilot to do it. So just, you know that your thrusters, turn on your RCS by pressing R, and then using H and N, J, K and I keys, you can basically move forward, backward, up, down, left, right. Just after a bit of practice, you'll become very familiar with it, and this is why these things are very good, because this is good practice. So I use the autopilot to get me close, and then I switch it off and basically do the final bit myself. And again, it's all about alignment, so I'm just trying to make sure that everything's nicely aligned, but again, it really does come down to, you know, your own skill of doing this, and I think you get used to it, trust me. So here we go, almost docked our first module together, and this will form the body of our moon station. It's not the easiest thing to do, I must admit. I have sped this up because it just, you know, it just takes a bit of a keen eye to get it done. Don't forget to store extra monopropellant as well. So almost there. Done. Look at that, docked, module 2 in orbit and connected. So lovely. That's the spine of our space station right there. Next step, fuel. Now this is where again I wanted to do something a little bit differently. I didn't want to dock nose first. I wanted to dock belly up, or belly down rather. So this is where I started to then send my fuel tankers into space. Simple design here again. It's just a huge top end bulk engine of fuel, and then 3 rocket boosters to get it in. You can use 4. I find that 3 just about does it. You have to burn a fair bit of fuel towards the end, but again you can just send these up over and over. I would recommend having a really good reusable fueler if you can, because one of the key things I think is to have as much fuel on that station as possible. So I did actually send up a few of these and dock and just refuel the central spine, because again it's all about, I have a station in orbit around Kerbal, and I'll then also have this station around orbit in the moon, so then I can kind of then start to use this moon base to then start getting further afield, maybe to the second moon, or even to Eve and Duna, which are the 2 planets either side of the Kerbal. So it's all a big plan really, I guess. It takes a huge amount of hand-eye coordination to get this right though. And I still got the angle slightly wrong, but hey, I'll accept it. It took long enough to do that. So that's fuel tank 1 in place, and then I just did this quick speed up, and also I'm refueling as well. So that's how I'm refueling. As you can see, I'm just moving fuel from one ship to the other, and then I actually got another down. And then also you can rename your station as well, so it's not just a vessel anymore, it's actually a station. So here we go, this is fuel tank number 2. Same process as before, we're just going to try and dock the other side, and here we go. And I sped that up because I can tell you that took me about half an hour to do, but finally got it just about right, and thankfully the magnetic seal took. It's a bit close, again you can damage the ships, but there we go. So there we go. So our fuel piece is in place. Okay, so nicely done. So final phase, the lander. Now this is just the stock lander from the basics. I didn't really have time to do my own. In fact, I quite like this lander anyway. And what I was going to do here was just then make it possible to get this into orbit. So you can see here I'm just kind of juggling around trying to get this to work. And I think that might do it. And then always try and have some aerodynamics as well, because that seems to help. However, whoops, always be careful of the weight of the vehicle, because sometimes the weight will cause you major problems as well. So all I did here was just build takeoff struts and then just try and lash everything together using the struts, and that seemed to work. So here we go. Now again, always about staging. Get used to staging, because it's always about not just starting engines and stopping them, etc. It's all about making sure that, in this case, this is a poor example because the main engine actually ran out of fuel before the boosters, which not really boosters, but you see what I mean. So that was a bit wasteful, but never mind. It still got into orbit, and then I had my second phase to get it nicely to the station, ready to dock. As you can see here, there we go. Fast forwarded again. Now it's a pain in the bum to dock when it's the dark side of the planet, so just try and forward time and get it into the light, or use lights. I actually have a lot of lights on all of my vehicles, but I've not switched them on yet. Anyway, so there's lander 1. Look at that, it's all coming together very nicely. I've got my solar panels out as well. Now you can deactivate engines as well, so you can turn what is effectively a craft with 20 odd engines into a craft of 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever. So here we go. This is the final lander here, and again I did attempt this at night just because I was getting a bit tired and I just wanted to finish the bloody thing. So here we go, almost done it. There we go, docked. So there we go, that is now ready to produce a very slow burn towards the moon. So there we go, and we switch the lights on. Look at that, look at that, look at my ship is amazing. Now that looks pretty cool. Now I'm starting to also have some concerns here as I've started to do the rendezvous calculator. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. And that was like a massive facepalm moment. I kind of knew it would do that, but I didn't think it would be that bad. So I was getting a bit nervous here. So I decided to go for it. And I thought a very gradual, slow burn, very carefully would do this. And I actually switched on the engines on the other side, but again, it didn't really work. So I just went with the final engine. So easily does it, gently does it. A little dab will do ya. Let's try this. And then here I'm just kind of hoping. Oh God, no. Oh. Okay. And I can tell you the air was blue when that happened. So there we go. It didn't work. So next episode, redesign, and naturally the inquiry to find blame. Hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.